Hello, welcome to the Daily Fantasy Flex Podcast, the PGA edition. I am your host, Bryan. I'm joined as always by Colin Davey and Peter Jennings, aka CSU Ram 88. We are going to discuss the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines, and we'll briefly hit on last week's Career Builder Challenge. Let's jump into last week. Colin, how are you doing? Anything stand out to you last week other than Jon Rahm is good at golf?
That was literally my opening line. I guess Jon Rahm is pretty good at golf. It was a week where not only did the chalk win, but the tournament favorite win, won. I guess there's only so much that you can learn when things broadly go according to expectations. The only thing it was kind of a repeat of the stuff I was wondering about at the Sony Open in Hawaii. The cut line was -7. A lot of that is because it was played over 3 days, so that's kind of like that half sleeves between a cut and a no-cut tournament. I think figuring out exactly what is the correct strategy to do when you have both of those conflating factors is challenging. And from a purely data perspective in terms of game theory, I honestly don't think we have enough data to answer that question yet from a purely run-the-number standpoint. So it's not coming up again until Pebble Beach comes up in February, so I'm not sweating it too much. I'm kind of relieved to get back to the standard boilerplate cut after 2 rounds, except there's still a wrinkle this week, which we'll get into a little bit. But yeah, I'm still struggling to figure out what is, I guess, game theory optimal given cut after 3 rounds and easier versus harder course. So, Pete, did you come up with the answer for me so I don't have to worry about it anymore?
No, I think last week was a week, like you said, you can't learn that much from. We all know we said Jon Rahm, was by far the favorite, and he made the most sense from an equity perspective. And I don't know, it's always hard when you have these golfers who are just way better than the rest of the field. So I thought it was just a chalky week overall. Certainly it was fun to watch the guys make a lot of birdies, but yeah, I'm excited for a more traditional golf tournament this week.
Yeah. Of note, there's some of the younger guys like Aaron Wise that we talked about who could be guys that we want to pay attention moving into 2018 who played very well. So definitely a good week for some of the younger golfers, Rahm included for sure. All right, let's jump into the Farmers Insurance Open. This is a tournament that is at Torrey Pines. Yes, the famous Torrey Pines where they had the U.S. Open. We have Tiger back in the field, so I'm sure that's going to bring a lot of casual viewers. Definitely a good week of golf. And outside of Tiger, we also have a lot of studs. We have Rahm, who is fresh off the win last week and is also the defending champion here. We have Ricky Fowler, Matsuyama, Justin Rose, Jason Day. I mean, the field is definitely pretty loaded. But let's start talking about the course, Torrey Pines. There are 2 courses, the north and south. And of note, it seems like they're actually pretty different. So, Colin, I think this is going to be an interesting conversation of how to treat the course, which golfers fit. What are your thoughts here?
So we have a little bit of a precedent for how it went even last week where how do you do course fit when it's like the first 3 rounds over 3 different courses? And the answer is you usually just kind of toss them all and treat it as a single course and see what stats pop. You can do the same thing here, and you still get some signal because they've done the north and south for the first 2 and the south for 3 and 4 for the last couple of years. And it still comes out as a distance course. That's not too surprising if 3 or 4 played at like a 7,900-yard course or whatever. You're going to need distance, but it just kind of weakens the need for distance. If they were all on south course, it would probably be a super strong course fit. But now it's kind of like a moderate to medium fit. There's no way to know who's going to be in the 3rd and 4th round. It's going to need that distance, but you just know that whoever, does well will need it. I think more important is the fact that they redesigned the North Course last year, and they made it easier for the casual player, the people who actually play this course during the weekend. They increased the green sizes. They took away some of the bunkers. So it is an easier course, and no one really knows how it's going to play out on the pro side, meaning, is like the course record of 59 attainable now. Of particular interest, even on that note, is so far there's shaping up to be a pretty nice wind differential between Thursday and Friday. So now it kind of gets into is that going to matter where like there's going to be a birdie fest available to some but not others? And all else being equal, where would you prefer if you're a player, where do you prefer to get your low wind, the easier course or the hard course? I mean, you think I still think it's easier course because maybe if it's going to be windy or if it's going to be calm on the south course, you're not going to get birdies anyway. And so really and so is it kind of more of like a birdie to par shift or a par to bogey shift on those tough courses? I think everyone's, inside 50-yard game is good enough that like they should be making up and down regularly, and it mostly affects the ability to make birdies. But I probably want to think that one through a little bit more. Pete, does that jive with your instincts a little bit? Like you'd want like the wind will mostly affect going from like it pushes you from birdie to par versus par to bogey, and like you want the no wind to be on the easier course?
I think that makes sense. I mean, it depends on the degree of the winds, obviously, right? Like you watch, no matter where these guys are playing, when the winds start getting 15, 20 mile an hour plus and they start swirling, like all these guys really struggle. And it just depends on the varying degree of it. But I do agree, especially on an easy course, if they don't have wind, it's just like there's no defense for the course, really. They can try to put the pins in really tough places, but really all they can really count on is the wind when it's an easy course. So, we see the only time we ever see these golfers look like mortals is when, they're at a really tough place and the wind starts really howling, like a U.S. Open type scenario, or, occasionally at the Open we'll see really tough winds like we saw that summer in 2016. So, I think the degree at which the wind is howling is a huge factor as well.
That's interesting. Yeah, and Pete, how much are you weighing distance? I mean, one of the courses, the South, is very, very long. It's almost 7,700 yards, which is one of the longer courses on tour. The North is a more reasonable, about 7,250. But it seems like if you're going for a winner, you need a golfer that can play well on both of those and be able to handle the distance on the South course. So it seems that distance is still going to be pretty darn important here.
Yeah, I have 15 out of 100 points in my model right now towards distance. Curious Colin's opinion on that.
I wouldn't hate that. Like it feels closer to like maybe like a 10 to 13, but that's really splitting hairs. It's not as big as like I think some people are making it out to be in terms of like loading up on it.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this angle here. So, we're trying to expand our pod, get into some betting market talk. We'll have some pods in a little bit, I think, down the road here as we approach majors where we talk about golf futures. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for everyone who tweeted feedback to me on what you guys want to do. Some people want to do some tournaments together. Some want some futures talk. So we'll definitely get into all those. But on the betting market, I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this. There is a prop on most sites for first round leader, and they've already released them. So we don't have tee times yet as of Tuesday morning. So it seems the betting market has not accounted for the fact that one course is much easier than the others. Pete, are you interested in that prop since you can essentially eliminate half the field?
I assume it's priced in a little. I mean, these markets are normally tough to beat, but yeah, it's interesting if you want to, throw something out there for fun. That's certainly an entertainment bet. I think the only really profitable bets for the most part are the matchups, but that's intriguing and a nice angle. Colin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if tee times aren't released right now, you don't know who's going to play the easy course after round one. So there's not a whole lot to capitalize on. If you want to try the speed angle and maybe see if the prices don't change other than the first 5 minutes of tee times getting released, you could probably squeeze something out. And even if it's break even, you're probably you're capitalizing on information before markets readjust. And so that is nothing if not fun. So if you have your favorites going in, and you can pounce on it really quick, I think, yeah, that is probably a good bet.
Yeah, I mean, these props are tough. So anytime you get an edge where you can eliminate half the field and you have a couple minutes to be able to get some like plus EV bets, that at least seemed interesting to me. Maybe something to look at once the tee times come out. As of recording this right now, which will definitely color some of our analysis moving forward, is we don't know who's playing north-south, and we're not exactly sure what the winds are going to look like come Thursday. So we'll definitely try to get that to you in the form of our written content. Cool. Any last thoughts on the course? You guys want to jump into the players?
Let's jump into the players.
Cool.
Let's do it.
All right. So Jon Rahm is the most expensive player. He is at 11.8. Again, won this tournament last year, so obviously has good history and is only tournament here. Ricky Fowler is at 11.4, right below him. Then we have Matsuyama at 10.8, Justin Rose at 10.6, and then we have a bunch of guys in that 9K range as well. Let's talk about some of these high price guys. Colin, I'm a little confused here. So historically, I went into our trends tool, and guys that have been 10K or above have been really, really poor here. They have averaged a minus 20.17 plus minus, and only about 25% of them have actually hit their expectations, which is like out of all of the courses and tournaments that we have in our database, it seems the high-priced golfers do worse here than other tournaments. I'm curious, do you think that's noise, just small sample size of the last couple of years, or do you think there's any predictability to that?
Well, I think there's some there's some facts underneath that. I mean, like if nothing else, salary-based expectations don't price in the course difficulty. That's why we have that kind of those score-specific adjustments under the hood a lot of times. So like all else being equal, the two worse. But in terms of like high-priced guys like not making the cut, I still think that has to be noise on some level, because since so much of it is tied to odds, that if there were truly kind of like a leveling off where like something about the course makes it more wide open and like top tier players like don't do as well, you wouldn't see anybody at odds with like 10% or more, or like even like 5% or more to win. Now, if you really want to say I still believe that's true and there's something in the water that just makes the top tier, actively fall off, that means like you should probably be betting that in matchups, in all honesty, where you take the field versus the high price guys and you say no one should be 5% or more to win this tournament. I still think that's tough to prove over the long term, because like you're just not going to get a sample size. So you'd probably have to have a hypothesis about why Torrey Pines does make the high end guys struggle a little bit more. Maybe there's something to that. Like if you ever look up like the Carnoustie effect is actually like a known thing, like in psychology in general, named after Carnoustie, where if a course is so tough or like conditions are so adverse relative to how someone's used to being able to play, some guys just will. But I think a lot of top tier guys are top tier guys because they're mentally strong anyway. Maybe Jon Rahm may be the exception to that. Who knows if he's getting better. So those are like 5 tangents in one, which is to say that like I assume that it's noise, but like there's reason why you could bucket. Pete, which one of those angles seems like the least terrible if you want to actually put your money behind those convictions?
I don't know, man. I mean, these high-end guys, like, do we know, like, how, like, on a relative basis, like, is this field stronger than we've seen in years past? Because I know a lot of these guys generally show up. I mean, this year we have, like 4 of the top 10 guys in the field?
It's pretty strong.
Yeah, DJ was here last year. He missed the cut.
Justin Rose, Jason Day, Matsuyama.
When he was God mode, Jason Day showed up, and he missed the cut.
Yeah,
DJ usually plays this one. So it's usually very strong. Like Matsuyama, Jason Day, Justin Rose, all these guys are typically in the field.
It just feels like it has to be noise, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, Colin's inclination seems right to me, but yeah, I don't know.
It seems like noise. It's like Occam's razor. Like if you can't get a good hypothesis, it's probably noise, right?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are so freaking good. It's just like maybe I just don't see that there's like a course that's like their kryptonite, like the good guys are going to do bad, and then I mean, I could see scenarios like the only scenarios in which I could see the top guys really kind of drifting towards the field in general is like a course that's like historically always really windy or something like that. Like that's like basically the only scenario that I could see where the top guys would lose their discernible edge.
If like 1 in 5 shots is randomness, then like by definition that flattens the playing field and makes it like it's biased towards the top guys. But like this is not like there's nothing random about Torrey Pines. You got to hit it really freaking hard.
Right. Yeah. I think we're all in agreement that it's noise, but I wanted to bring it up because it is notable and interesting. It's a good conversation there. So let's dive into these top players. Pete, what are your thoughts about these guys? The guys in like sort of the high nines into the triple digits. Rahm obviously playing really good golf and won here. What are your thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, I mean, Rahm is clearly the top of the field again. That's no surprise. His odds are the best as well. I just think he's the guy to beat here. Funny enough, I was looking on Pinnacle and didn't see odds specifically for Ricky Fowler, but then there are, will Ricky Fowler, I saw like he doesn't have just straight odds, but he has some other props that are really interesting, and maybe that'll come back. I think Ricky's probably my second favorite golfer in the field at this point. I'm expecting a huge year from him overall. So basically anytime he tees it up, I'm going to try to get a little exposure to him, but both those guys are going to be pretty chalky. So when looking for someone to go to that might not have the ownership in the top end of the guys, someone like, I don't know, maybe Matsuyama will be not super heavily owned relative to the other guys. Justin Rose, I think, will have some ownership. So it's pretty tricky to kind of discern these guys outside of Rahm having the most equity, with Fowler, I think, as a second guy. Colin, do you have any conviction on anyone being low owned towards the top? And how do you think the equity shakes out with these guys relative to their price?
I'm not going to – I mean, I agree that Rahm's the top of the class here. I don't think his equity is as overwhelming as it was last week. Mm-hmm. I think just because when you have a harder course, there's going to be fewer birdies. So, like, the gap – it's just – that's closer to, like, the compression or the wind effect that we're talking about of, like, there's not going to be – he's not going to run laps around the field. I don't like Ricky as much as you do, just straight up. I think you look at his history here, he gets a ding there. And like as much distance as he actually has, like all the other little stuff that goes into it, like I think he's overachieving a little bit on accuracy relative to his distance right now. And like that's actually giving him like a weird like penalty at Torrey Pines, just because like since distance is so important, accuracy gets like a minor. Guys with bad accuracy generally do better here. Who knows if that's going to change with a course redesign, but I could find a Ricky fade, especially at his price, way more. I think Justin Rose I would take head-to-head over Ricky for this tournament. He has kind of similar history, but just like a little bit better. And it's really his Euro results and all the stuff that's been going on that we haven't been paying attention to that have really put him into.
He's trending hard, just like Ricky, I think.
Yeah, he's like they're like while we're all paying attention to U.S. stuff only during this kind of like soft start to the season. He won a Euro tournament, got fourth in another one, and 10th in another one.
He's crushing right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even the last one he played in the Abu Dhabi, like its 22nd isn't great, but like if you take a look at his stats, the reason he didn't do so well was putting, which like if you believe in putting aggression, he played like he should have been in a top 10. So he is in really solid form. Yeah. I am really hoping that people are doing the ignoring the Euro results type of thing, because I think not only at his price point, but like I would just take him heads up over Ricky. I think he is like, yeah, I could see a lot of lineups with Justin Rose.
Yeah, I think like for his price, he's probably the best play, like straight up. Like maybe Rahm, obviously, if you think he has that much equity, but just relative to his price at 10.6, it's hard to get off Rose for sure. Pete, what are your thoughts on ownership on Tiger? I mean, The dude has won here 7 times. This is where he won a major when it was hosted here at Torrey Pines, the U.S. Open. So he has the course record. Obviously, he's a very different player. So I know that we're a little bearish on taking Tiger, but what are your expectations as far as what the public's going to do with him?
I mean, the public's going to jam Tiger. I think on FanDuel, he's a much better play than he is on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think he's actually a play. On FanDuel, he's 8,900. Not saying that he's a lock at that price, but at least he's in consideration. On DraftKings, from an equity standpoint, I think it's absolutely insane to I mean, he's the 5th most expensive golfer. He's more expensive than guys like Cantlay and Leishman, and
Jason Day. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So I don't know what his ownership's going to be on DraftKings. It'll probably still be somewhat high. I'm rooting for the guy, though. I mean, who isn't rooting for Tiger that's a fan of golf? I mean, that's the best case scenario. And what we saw earlier in the year was really positive. I just hope he can stay healthy and be competitive. I mean, even just making the cut here would be fantastic. So in terms of DFS, I'm not going to have any exposure to him on DraftKings. I think he'll be heavily owned. I think his equity is terrible relatively. But on FanDuel, maybe I'll find a way to play him a decent bit. And, from a golf perspective and just being a fan, I hope he crushes.
Colin, we know that there's 0 chance that you're going to roster him.
Beyond 0. I have my standard, there's just not enough data on Tiger right now, so I'm kind of going in blind. It's basically treating him as a no, might as well be coming up from the web.com tour. And I probably won't have enough for a while. So there's a very real chance that because we talk all the time about how do you price in something like pedigree when someone has been capable of something better than they're playing right now. I think Tiger is the case in that, where it's Tiger Woods, he's capable of so much. I would guess his ownership is probably going to be around 13%. I think that sounds about right for given his odds and his hype, and there's still enough people that won't roster him because they're waiting to see if he's coming back. But yeah, I think there's still, and even if he does come back in full, one of my favorite games, what would golf DFS been like during Tiger's heyday? What would Tiger's ownership have been, and would it have been profitable to auto fade Tiger from a game theory perspective? I don't know. I think Tiger probably would have been the first to crack 50% ownership at some point back in the day. Pete, how high do you think Tiger's highest ownership would have been in the prime years?
I mean, he would have been 60, 70% owned.
I agree.
He's winning every tournament.
Look at Tiger Woods' 2000 year. I mean, give me a second. I think I have this somewhere. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I have this somewhere. I have this tweeted out somewhere. That's just, it's the most disgusting stat of all time on Tiger. But yeah, he would have been so heavily owned. I mean, he was even money versus the field to win the tournament. You could take.
Yeah, I remember those. You could bet I think you could have been profitable in futures just betting the field versus Tiger every time, right? Because everybody was.
I don't know. In certain years, I think you would have gotten your.
I think it would have. Fast back in the day, just because 70% ownership.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna try to find this stat on Tiger. It was unreal. Hopefully I can find it. But while I look for that, we can transition on into the mid-tier, I guess, and Colin can go first.
Yeah, let's do that. So interesting mid-tier here, Colin. We have some guys who seemingly fit the course pretty well. I know Finau and Woodland are always pretty popular plays, and it seems like they're going to be fairly popular again just because of the distance angle. Those guys, obviously, some of the longer guys on in the PGA Tour. We also have guys in this range like Charles Howell, who is trending as well lately. He finished second last year, has one of the better course histories here, 16th year before, 5th, and then 9th 5 years ago. So 3 top 10s at this course, and it has been a pretty loaded field over the years. So, Colin, seems like an interesting tier here. Who's standing out to you?
Yeah, I think it's no surprise that Finau is probably top of this class for me. He's just everything about it screams really well. Great history, great fit, just a really good golfer overall right now. I think he's a top 20 golfer in the world, or like as at least in his current form. And it's like he may break my rule on like I may not care that he's over 20% owned. Like the equity's almost in that direction. I just take him anyway. Maybe Gary Woodland will dilute that a little bit because they're like right next to each other, both in terms of fit, history, price, everything. I could see them being like really similar. And like, yeah, maybe that like there's just so much like goodness in this range that like maybe that'll keep someone like Rahm's ownership down, but I don't know. He's always going to be really popular. Howell will always seem to be popular. He has great history here. The one that I'm hoping people overlook, but I doubt they will by the time they're out there, is Jonathan Vegas, who he gets mentioned every once in a while, but like I wouldn't call him a mainstay in people that are recommending him. But for my money, has just as good history here as Howell, all things considered. Maybe not in the pure upside, but 4 to 5 made cuts here, including 2 top 25s. Is definitely trending in the right direction overall right now, where his last 2 tournaments have been to 7 and 11. I could see him still staying around like maybe 15% ownership, which is still pretty high for that price range, but just don't overlook him because I could like that as well. Other than that, Brendan Steele's here again. Surprise, surprise. We never seem to be able to get away from him. Not a surprise because he has distance. And Kyle Stanley also has like a decent history shown here. Not quite the distance of some of these other guys, but like all of those key indicators like seem like he has good upside potential.
Yeah, very interesting tier here. A couple of the guys we can hit on, but first, Pete, who's standing out to you in this tier? Is Finau definitely the top for you?
Well, yes, he is, but let me get this Tiger. So Tiger 2000 season, 20 starts, 20 top 25s, 17 top 10s, 16 of which were top 5s, 9 wins, 3 majors, and 4 second places. So he was basically even money. You could bet him versus the field, and that wouldn't have been an awful bet. Obviously, you would have lost. I'm pretty sure the field was probably like minus 150 or something like that. So you would have gotten smoked taking the field, not even 2-1 versus Tiger. And, just shows how ridiculous he was. He was first, second, 18, second, first, 6th, 5th, 4th, first, 23rd, first, 11th.
Oh, my God.
It just was so ridiculous. He was just multiple standard deviations better than everyone else. And, so hopefully obviously I think that's never going to happen again in golf really, but maybe it does down the road. Who knows? Tigers certainly, and don't have any expectations even close to that. I just hope he can be competitive with how good the golfers are today. Yeah, in terms of the mid-tier, Finau's clearly the number 1 play overall, ranking far and away the highest in my model. Has the most pro trends. I think he'll be really heavily owned. I'm intrigued by someone like Gary Woodland, who anytime there's a distance course, I always am interested in him. His performance overall has been kind of up and down at times, but obviously he played well at the Sony Open in Hawaii, and I think hopefully he can realize a little bit more of his potential. He's definitely one of the better athletes on tour, and certainly someone I'm going to target. I'm with Colin on Charles Howell. The history here is really good. He's really he's really high in my model as well. You got young guys that we're always looking to target. Xander's an interesting one. Grayson Murray for tournaments. If you're going to take a bomber who's high upside, I think he makes sense. Brendan Steele will be chalk. Obviously, we're on him. I like the Vegas call by Colin. He was someone that I hope might be sneaky, but I don't think he really will be. Peter Uline's another guy that I think is intriguing.
What are your thoughts on Ollie, Pete?
Yeah, I like Ollie too. He's another one of those guys that he's right there. He's ranking behind Woodland and Charles Howell, kind of in that same tier, and obviously Finau, but he might be a nice pivot. Guys like Mickelson and Lowry probably normally would be more heavily owned than some of these guys historically, but I think people are starting to get off them, so they could be interesting ownership plays, but probably not great ones. It's tricky because all these guys are really, really good. Colin's been on James Hahn in the past. He's someone that I don't think I'll have a ton of exposure to, especially since he's not crazy long, but He's another guy in that range that is intriguing. And if you want to take another young guy, Aaron Wise is right there, and that's someone that I know Bryan's talked about and someone we're kind of keeping an eye on. Obviously played really well at this Career Builder Challenge and was pretty low owned. So this tier is great. There's a ton of really good options. My favorite plays for sure, just from an equity standpoint, are guys like Finau, Charles Howell. And I'm probably higher on Woodland than most.
Colin, what are your thoughts on a guy like Brandt Snedeker? He was ended up being pretty chalky last week. I believe he was the third highest owned guy in the $33 dog leg, and certainly disappointed missing the cut after 3 days. But if you're looking at course history, he's right there. He has won this twice in the last 5 or 6 years. He got 9th place last year, has a 2nd place finish as well. So, I mean, if you're just looking at top 10, top 5, even wins, Snedeker is right there as far as doing well at Torrey Pines. Do you think there's going to be any recency bias? People got burned. Maybe he's a little lower owned than he should be given his course history?
I mean, I don't care if they are. I was thrilled when people were loading up in Snedeker. He was rating awfully in all of my stuff. And I feel like I say this about him a lot. And I just, there's no getting, it just pop up as player models or like his results log. You can see really why. He'll go through these stretches where his distance is just, there's absolutely nothing there. And since birdies are so important, like if you can't get in a spot where you can make birdie, then like your scoring is just going to be awful. There are moments where all right, his GIR is like a little bit higher. Like you just have to be dead accurate. And sometimes he is like with that short distance and there's a little bit of recovery now, but like y'all can have Snedeker. I get that. I agree that there's like great history here.
That's what makes it weird though, right? Because he doesn't seem to be a good fit for the course. Yet his history is great.
Yeah, and you can that will come out in the wash over the long run. Spieth at Augusta is kind of like that other classic example. But I don't need any part of Snedeker. At any point, y'all can have them.
That's fair. Let's dip down to this value tier. We'll talk about guys in the 7K. Maybe the high 6s if there's anyone interesting to you there. Pete, I'll kick to you first. Some interesting players here, some talented guys. We got guys like Molinari is at 7.4, and then Pete's favorite player, Keegan Bradley at 7.2. Pete, who's standing out to you here?
Keegan Bradley. Hopefully he'll just suck this year and I won't even have to consider him. If you want to go straight distance and upside, one of Colin's old favorites is J.B. Holmes. I probably won't have too much J.B. Holmes, but I don't hate him. Decent course history here. Obviously a bomber. You have someone else very similar to him in terms of upside, and Jamie Lovemark when you're looking at just driving distance, and he should be pretty low owned. So he's an intriguing tournament play to me. I think the chalk guys in this range are going to be players like Francesco Molinari, who's too cheap relative to how good of a golfer he is. Not the best course fit, but I do think he's interesting. Adam Hadwin's another one that I think will soak up a decent bit of ownership. Keegan probably will too. Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll have a lot of him. Every time I'm playing DFS golf now, I'm always looking at Charlie Hoffman. That's my dad's favorite golfer he's actually gotten into DFS golf. He always calls him Smiling Charlie. And I think he's someone who's kind of interesting this week at 7,200. I obviously played extremely well down the stretch last year. It was kind of a breakout for him. Then you get into some other players. I got to bring up Bryson DeChambeau. I probably won't have too much of him, but intriguing guy that I'm always looking to see how he does. I definitely was wrong touting him as kind of the next big thing. I think there's a lot of young guys I'd much rather have than him. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of who I'm looking at kind of in this low tier. Lucas Glover is another one I think stands out a lot. If he can get the putter going at all, he should do really well here. It's probably it. Maybe we look at someone like Emiliano Grillo if he can get his form back, but it's not a good course fit. Threw out a bunch of names there. I think the chalk is clearly like Molinari and Hadwin. My favorite plays are probably these bombers that have upside. This is where I'll probably be more contrarian than some other people. Colin, what are your thoughts on some of those names, and who do you think has the most equity / who do you like the most in GPPs?
All right, maybe doing a little reverse rundown. One, Bryson just absolutely shat the bed in Europe this past week in Abu Dhabi. Like that's you're probably going to want to price that in. So like I'm doing my public service talking you off of Bryson as we seem to do every week, but at least I have a reason for that this time. I broadly agree with all the guys he listed. Keegan Bradley continues to pop high, and yeah, I think one of the things I need a much harder look at is when can you tell that putting, like someone truly cannot putt and it's not all randomness. I think in a case like Keegan Bradley, they basically named the belly putter rule like the Keegan Bradley rule, and there's a clear reason why. Like if like someone is just year over year terrible, and it's especially after a rule change, then yeah, he probably is the one guy or like one of the few guys that bucks the like putting is all noise, and like that'll severely limit your upside. But it's tough. It's tough to know who truly can't putt without essentially watching the game or like or having something about it, or that's one of the tougher ones to kind of deduce data wise. Other than that, like the only guys you didn't mention that I could see like taking a flyer on, Stuart Sink is in his classic spot of he's cheap. I don't know how much upside he actually has. Yeah. Is he a good GPP play? I think his like that Stuart Sink is basically a Zen cone of like trying to deduce like the universe's riddles because there's no wrong answer to that question, I think. In terms of upside, like I can see Kevin Hui like definitely having the distance to compete here. Also kind of has a weird putting thing going on now since I'm questioning everything on putting. He like I don't know if his stuff is permanent or not. The one I really want to get Pete's opinion on, who like if I run the normal lineup process and see where am I going to get low ownership on and still get good equity, I know it's going to come up all Jamie Lovemark for me. And we've talked about him before, where like because he's your guy, he's high risk, high reward. And kind of seeing to see because he's underperformed recently, and I'm trying to figure out whether or not like this is a great underperformance to capitalize on because it's all due to luck, or if there's something systematically going on. And normally we can't point to something like putting. It's like, oh, that's the reason he's there, like he's due. It's all like GAR trending the wrong way because he's horribly inaccurate. Yeah. Is that just like that's what happens when you play the Jamie Lovemark slot machine, or like is there something about that really poor GIR that it's like I don't know. What do you do with that one?
He's been spraying his driver too.
Oh, he sprays everything. You just have to hope. You just have to hope he has one of those good weeks. I mean, he's one of the best athletes on tour. Freakishly long when he's on. And he can dial it in. Just the problem is you're going to get a lot of these rounds, and if you're sweating him at all, it can be beyond tilting. I mean, he's in a position to make a shot, and then he'll just throw a drive like so far out of bounds that like he's just done. He's all over the place. I mean, you look at his stats. I mean, long-term form, only hitting 57.1% of his fairways, driving accuracy, 39% short-term. He's been absolutely awful. So it's certainly extremely risky, hoping that he finds it this week. This is only a tournament play, but the upside at least is there. That's someone that I think, hopefully will get his game together at some point. But it's been real bad. 3 straight missed cuts, just really struggling to put the ball in play. So probably not the week to do it. But from an ownership standpoint, you get him at 1-2%. He's a guy that can definitely win you some GPPs if he puts it all together. So the epitome of risk reward, probably more risk than reward though this week.
Yeah, you talked about JB Holmes, who's sort of a similar play, high risk, high reward play. So yeah, some potential to get contrarian, but high upside in this lower range for sure. Let's just talk about just a couple other quick things before we get out of here. Colin, we were very high on Patrick Cantlay in 2017. I'm curious your thoughts on him in 2018. Where does he stand for you?
I am probably doubling down. I think he has the potential to occupy a very sweet spot in ownership where people load up on Finau Woodland below him, and Rahm like right above him, maybe even Ricky especially. He has bad history here, but like after like the nitty gritty is like one miscut in 2013 when he was like wasn't even a full-time tour player. I think it's a good fit, not a great fit, but a good fit. And fun fact, just if you click on his results, ever since he officially like joined up last year, has not missed a cut.
Nice. Yeah, he's been so good.
What is not to like?
Yeah. Yeah, he's been really good. Another interesting. This is a prop here that I'm seeing in some of the some sites here. To make the cut, Tiger is minus 200. What are your thoughts on that number, Pete?
What's the plus side?
You bet 150 plus 150.
It's a pretty big spread right there.
It is. It's a pretty big one.
It feels like both sides of that are bad. Colin?
Yeah, I think that's I think the juice wins. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can also bet on Tiger to make a hole-in-one. That is plus 8,000.
Can you bet the no?
You cannot bet the no. Unfortunately not.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Yep, that would be nice, though.
I would love to fire a lot on the no.
Yeah, if only they offered that.
That would be a scary sweat to have. You just go watch and just hope.
Yeah.
Because if he does get it, you're going to see it for so long, too.
Yeah, that would be the ultimate tilt.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
All right, let's before we pick winners, let's talk about guys under 5%. This is definitely a segment that people like. I think we talked about some guys that could be interesting in that regard. Maybe it's Love Mark, maybe it's JB Holmes. If you guys think those guys are going to be under 5%, Colin, who's standing out to you from an equity standpoint? Low owned, high upside.
Yeah, well, I guess it's still going to be Love Mark. I mean, we covered him to death, but it's like that. It just leaning into that is like maybe probably good practice for embracing, risk reward, and like you're just going to have like weeks where it all goes to hell and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, I think the other one, if you want the most under-owned course history here, probably. I would go Scott Stallings, interestingly enough. 7,400, normally at the absolute bottom of the barrel, has won this event before. Also had like a second place finish the year after. All things considered, not too terrible history. There's no other like top 25s really realistically in sight in the game log. But if you're a pure believer in course history, and you want it to be unknown course history, Scott Stallings is your guy.
Interesting. Pete, what about you?
I think he's going to be right at 5% or so, but I think given his price and kind of no course history, I think Peter Uihlein is a pretty nice pick this week. Maybe he's right at that tier, but with Brendan Steele, 100 more than him, and Bud Colley there, James Hahn, Vegas, Aaron Wise, I think a lot of people are going to click names around him. And this is a guy that I just want exposure to this year. There's a lot of young guys that we want to take. Last week, he was only 4% owned, had a pretty good finish. He's not like the longest guy, but he's pretty long. And with no course history, I think that's a good way to kind of get some nice ownership. A lot of people are going to look at course history, and I think Uihlein will slide a little under the radar. And I think he's a pretty nice tournament play, given that I think he's going to be around 5%.
I dig it. All right, well, let's pick some winners and get out of here. I think Pete and I have gone first each of the last 2 weeks. So, Colin, we'll give you first pick on this one. And Pete, you can have second pick. I'll go third.
All right. No surprise here. I'll take Rahm.
I'll go Fowler, but I think Rose and Fowler are really close.
Yeah, I'll take Rose. Even though, Matsuyama, Jason Day has been playing well. So I think there's a lot of interesting guys. Maybe you can get some contrarian ownership leverage in this high range, as Pete has been talking about the last couple of weeks, that he likes to do it in this spot. All right, let's go under 9K. Colin Finau is just right there for you.
No, you get to go, Bryan.
Oh, that's me. Yes, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. All Okay, well, Finau's right there for me.
Nice tease.
I did not do that on purpose. I was a donkey. And
I respect if there's one thing we don't do enough in this segment, it's the meta game. Like that's actually like game respect game. That's a good.
I'm going Woodland. My conviction on Woodland. Colin, do you hate that play, Woodland, this week?
No, I don't. I really like it. Like that was the I would have picked him if you didn't. So now it's just there's no conviction in any of this.
You can't pick Charles Howell.
I can, but let all else be. I would get nothing out of if he won and like the best player to never win or whatever, like that would be. Yeah, I gotta go Howell just because like if he's gonna people are gonna love it when he's gonna win and it'll be celebratory to catch that wave. It's definitely worth it.
You get double fictional points if he wins.
Yeah, that's playing Oregon Trail as a farmer, you just get a score multiplier at the end. All right.
Cool. All right, we will end it there. Pete, how excited are you to watch Tiger at Torrey this week?
I'm excited, man. Definitely excited for some Tiger. I'm going to play more DFS golf this week. I'm back home in Colorado, so I'm excited to play a good bit of DFS golf.
For sure. Yeah, good time in sports. NBA rolling. Trade deadline coming up, so a lot of action. We have Tiger at Torrey. We have the Super Bowl coming up in a couple weeks, so definitely a good time of year for sports. Thank you guys for listening. Good luck this week, and we'll talk to you guys next week.